Yo Forkis live on YouTube. I am live once again as every Wednesday in the week. I will be having a GM class today. I think we are going to be looking one of many Karpo's masterpiece in the positional chess, of course. I can't wait for it to happen. And yes, we will have a major pawn structure decisions. This will be today's topics. I can't wait to jump right into it. We have to wait for a little bit for a GM to start streaming as well, so I can get to him any moment now. So, yes, the today's topics will be pawn structure decisions. Hold, push, or take. That's probably one of the hardest missions to do in all of positional chess, because if you push the pawn, something happens. If you take the pawn, something happens. And if you just stay here and maybe defend the pawn, something else will happen. And it's not as hard to calculate what happens, but it's hard to actually to predict or to guess the evaluation of that resulting position. So that's the point of today's topic, I believe. I think that will be the point of today's topics. We will start any moment now with the OBS. Everything should be fine as well. Grandmaster will join me in a few moments now. So, with that being said, I think everything is ready to start now. GM Bánusz is live. I can ask to join him right away. Okay, I'm still waiting for GM, so it might take a few moments now, here and then. But then everything should be set. Hello. Yo, yo, yo. Nothing special. Nothing
Nothing special.
special.
I just turn your mic a little bit down. How can I do that? Uh huh. Guys, Forky is not too loud, right? Can I have some confirmation about that? No, I think you were good. I think you were good.
Oh, okay.
How was Antalya Tuesday?
Um, I I had 3 out of 3. Of course, I played some random guy who is 1200, and he completely crushed me. He sacrificed 2 rooks, and I think he was probably cheating. I mean, he sacrificed
Uh
both
huh.
rooks in 0.05 seconds. So I guess, I mean, I don't care. Maybe
Mhm.
he's just lower rated,
Mhm.
but okay. So then I
Yeah,
went on
I
tilt.
I I heard that people complained about some cheating problems in Antalya Tuesdays.
I mean, maybe he was just as good, and I
Yeah, you
don't
never
care.
know. You never know.
Yeah.
But is it the same thing? So people must provide their names in their
Oh
profile.
no, no. The only like requirement is to have like 30 rated blitz games on chess.com, and that's it.
Oh, that's
So
it. But
yeah.
is there a point to like play as a grandmaster? There, so are there any prizes?
I think there are, like, if you are streaming, if you are top streamer, I think you get like 10 gifted subs or something like that. It's
Yeah,
not
but okay.
much,
I
but
mean, of course, the streamer will never cheat, right? I mean,
yes, that's also true.
why would the streamer as a
Yeah.
grandmaster go for intelligence? No, I meant like the for Smurf accounts, maybe they. But okay, I mean, if there
Oh,
there are prizes only for streamers, then it's of course.
yes. I get it.
Yeah. All right. All right. So let's start. Let's start our um with a new episode of our Play Like Karpov session. So, I'm gonna invite you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, chess. I think
I think.
you must received it.
Okay.
All
I
right.
I have the position.
All right, great. The notations are also
Correct.
hidden, right?
Yes.
So awesome. All righty. So this is our starting position, and
Wow.
today's topic is gonna be where what I highlighted and showcased last week: pawn structure decisions. Like the classical push, take, hold. And who can showcase like better than Karpov. And yeah, this was the early early career of Karpov's, like in 1972. Karpov was, if I'm not mistaken, and I should know that. I don't want to. No, I think I'm 99.9% sure that Karpov was born in 51. So at this point, he was 21 years old. So at the first period of his career, he was an E4 player, surprisingly,
Wow.
and he played a little bit more dynamical lines, and later he became more positional. He became more, his chess became, I mean, just turned to into a more deeper stage, and he started to play a little bit more closed openings with one d4. But the early, like the young Karpov was playing e4. I mean, he played close Sicilians, and like he really liked to attack. So like the regular question. First of all, how would you now white is on turn. Black last move was c5. First of all, how would you evaluate this position? Obviously, this came from some Spanish.
Yes.
I can't remember which Spanish though, but
Okay. No problem.
maybe Breyer. I think it
Yes,
was
it
Breyer,
looks
because
like.
the knight, probably knight b8, knight bd7, knight b6. This is probably how the knight got to b6, but
Yes.
actually I'm not quite sure. And in Breyer, white plays b4 in many
Yes.
cases, so it's probably Breyer.
So I think, just probably more based on intuition than something else, I feel like white should be, um I don't know, I at least slightly better, because he has um the more direct ideas. I mean, it seems slightly weird, but my idea is to, at some point, maybe open up the light square bishop from d3. So maybe a push like f4 is there, and I feel like white has um more pawn breaks. I mean, like f4 especially. But also, if I yes, I feel like white should be better here. Um,
Hmm.
I didn't delve way too deep, but feels like with this f4 idea, opening the light square diagonal and getting the knight to f5, it looks perfect position for white.
Yeah, but I mean, with the knight on f5, black can deal with that. So black can anytime can push g6. I mean, yeah, sometimes this as you said, if we manage to open up this diagonal, bishop takes g6 sacrifices might be the case, but the queen is well, well protecting from the 7th rank, so I don't think it would do any serious damage in black's position. Yeah, I mean, what I think we can see about the position is white as always in most of the Spanish lines. White is up on space, right? But black usually, especially in Breyer, so like in Zaitsev and Chigorin, black is trying to attack the center like right away. In Breyer, black has no problem with some space disadvantage. First, black is trying to maneuver the knights and the pieces and develop the pieces, and then he will take care of the center. So I mean, the fact that we have space advantage in a Spanish structure is not that relevant. I mean, of course, it's going to be very concrete if you decide to do something with the center. So it's like always the question: do we hold it? Do we take, or do we push? That's the main question. Give me a second. Hold on.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, would you push? Would you take, or would you hold?
So I feel like taking on c5, bc5, and then dc5 and then d5 has to be something
Mm-hmm.
um worth spending some time. I think black is also threatening to take on d5, cd5, cd5. Um, no, excuse
You,
me,
you you mean D4, right?
ed4, cd4, and then take on b4. When I cannot really take with the queen because then d5 and he takes on e4, and I don't think I have an advantage there. Um,
But after ED4, yeah, after ED4, CD4, CB4, you might have D5,
hmm.
closing
Okay,
closing this bishop's diagonal and closing this bishop's
okay,
diagonal,
that's fair.
attacking the knight, and the next move you can take queen takes B4.
Okay, I didn't see that. That's correct. Yes, this also feels quite pleasant, by the way. So maybe he's not threatening to take. Um,
Are you sure about that? He's not threatening.
um, Probably not.
Okay. How about ED4, CD4, C4?
Yes, this is very bad.
I mean, because he can create a protected
Yes,
plus pawn.
exactly.
The problem is your bishop is hanging. So after ED4, CD4, C4, you must move your bishop, and then he's going
Yes,
to go D5. Okay, you can push E5,
but that's
and yeah, maybe he's not pushing actually because the knight is getting a little bit sketchy. Maybe he can jump to E4, sacrifice a pawn. Yeah, this is usually the lines which Karpov didn't want to calculate in
yes.
general.
Okay.
So yeah, he made a very very logical decision here. How about the push? You
D5
didn't
right
mention
away.
the push. Yeah, how about the
Hmm.
push? Because as we highlighted in a line with ED CD CB D5,
Yes, I'm
D5
blocking the
now actually is
bishops.
closing this bishop's diagonal and this bishop's
Yes,
diagonal. It's pushing down,
yes.
black's position. So it has a huge point.
Okay,
But is
that's
it
true.
good though? Is it good? Always like in chess, evaluating pawn structures are probably the most complex things.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm always saying this principle, but um, I think this cannot be said enough. Like what Dvoretsky said always in his books, that be careful about pawn structure decisions, pawn structure, moving your pawns, because they are the only pieces on the board which cannot go backwards. So this is permanent. Once you push a pawn, that's permanent. You can't change it. So like choosing the right pawn structure for you is key. So you are actually struggling between d5 and b takes c5, d takes c5,
Yes.
d5.
I
So you
feel
would
like
definitely push d5
at some point, yes.
at some point. At
So
some
I don't.
point.
I feel like taking first on c5 looks better to me, but
You mean takes and then d5.
yes.
Mm-hmm. This is exactly what happened in the game.
Okay.
According to engine though, d5 was as good.
Okay.
Um, pushing d5, and in case of, let's say, knight a4, then just c4. And now actually we are trying to open up the queen side against the weak b7 bishop, because whenever these four pawns get traded, this bishop all of a sudden can be targeted. Also the knight on a4 can be targeted, and then we can focus on the queen side. So I think this was one way to handle the position, but Karpov chose otherwise. He took on c5, dc5, and d5. I mean, this plan is I don't want to highlight everything, because I will still need some answers later. So I'm not gonna like um say all the benefits of this decision, but
Okay.
we can definitely say that the point of this decision, this pawn structure decision by Karpov, was definitely paralyzing. One of the main ideas is the paralyzing the b7 bishop, because now the b7 bishop has basically no future um, on this diagonal right now. Only it can only do something in case, let's say, which is like a very common plan in Spanish structures, to push f5. But obviously f5 is not going to be the case, and destroying this pawn structure. But it's just not the case, because we are well covering f5 square. And also, if black is trying to push f5, he always has to count on weakening his own king. I mean, in return, he is destroying our center, but in the same time, it's weakening his king. So it's always like a double-edged decision. You always have to make sure that you will get benefited by this f5 as black if you're a Spanish player. So without f5, this bishop has no future on this diagonal, which means paralyzing one very very important long diagonal piece. This long range piece. It's always beneficial. This is one thing. The other thing, which like where in this case where basically no pieces got traded so far. Creating a protected pass pawn is always a good thing, but with with all the pieces remained on the board, it's not that relevant. But of course, this guy in an endgame can be very, very dangerous. So as I said last time, I'm not so sure which session was that. So the main point of creating a protected pass pawn is like it's not that it gives immediate threats. It's just it will just one of the pieces has to always keep an eye on this guy, always, because it has potential to at some point it just starts to run all the way to d8 and start to promote. So either the king or one of the minor pieces has to keep an eye on d5 forever, which means um, he cannot we actually making one of these pieces to yeah not defend, but to defend against the pawn. So actually we are creating long-term threats. So yeah, these are definite. Also, we are gaining space by pushing d5. We are gaining even more space. So black played knight a4 now. This is what Gligorich played. Your turn. How would you play now? First of all, what by this move? What was black's intentions?
Probably to play c4.
Exactly. So and after c4.
To bring something to c5. Probably the knight
Probably the
or
knight
or the bishop. I mean,
or the bishop. Yeah, that's here comes the other question. Trading down these bishops, who will get benefited by that?
I think it might be us because, although not, no, I don't think. Um, well, that's hard question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think black would be the one benefiting from that
Of
trade.
course, of course. Um, Not of course. It's not like 100% obvious, because if we have to decide which bishop is better, like in for black, obviously the Darkswer, right? The Darkswer bishop is better, but I mean there are some very, very important dark squares. I don't want to highlight every single one of them, but one is definitely the d6 square. So on d6 square, basically, what did we learn about blockades? I think when we checked
The IQP.
the isolated pawns, right? Now black is not going to make a blockade against an isolated pawn, but against a protected pass pawn. It's almost the same principle. So it's the blockading piece is a dark square, right? So what do we have? A Darcer bishop. So whenever something, potentially a knight, will make a blockade on a dark square, it's not a bad idea to eliminate the opponent's Darcer bishop. So basically, this Darcer bishop, maybe not now, but later, can kick the knight out from d6 whenever it creates a blockade, which is going to be very, very important if black has a time for that. So also, yeah, for other reasons, I don't want to make spoilers here. So like trading the Darcer bishops down, it would definitely favor black. Why couldn't he? Here comes the point of this decision. This is what I also didn't want to make spoiler about. So usually after b takes c5, d takes c5, d5 in Spanish structures, it's not a big deal. It's not that big of a deal that black could, or we could create this type of pass pawns. Because in case of c4, it's always double edged. It's always double edged. But now c4 was not available because knight was hanging. And by this push, I mean black is losing a pawn. So he couldn't really do that. If c4 would be the case, then what Karpov played, b takes c5, d takes c5, d5 would be wrong. Instead, he should have just pushed simply d5. But since the knight was on a very unfortunate square, so black had to lose the tempo to move the knight away. It gave Karpov time to react against knight a4. So this is why b takes c5, d takes c5, d5 was a very nice decision, because c4 was not available right away. So black played knight a4. Your turn, mister.
I mean, of course, I have to play c4, right?
Yes, exactly. In order to stop c4, bishop c5, in order to stop the trade of these bishops, it's very important. Not even mentioning. By the way, by c4, we actually give black some counterplay, because obviously after c4, b4 will be happening, and it gives a knight a very nice c3 square where it can make trouble, and we kind of this is not a protected pass pawn, but now we just gave black a very nice counterplay in long term. Whenever it comes down to an endgame, black can also push the pawns and creating pass pawn. But Karpov in this position, in this game, this c4 move is actually so much more complex than we thought. It's not only just stopping the potential trade of the darker bishops, but it actually it's a very serious decision because Karpov, it was clear from this point, he pushed c4 and allowed b4. It was clear that Karpov is not playing for any type of endgames. He would like to decide the game in the middle game, because in long term this was not a good decision. Because let's say if we allow c4, maybe black can still create some pass pawns, but c4 is going to be weak if he pushes c4. But if he push c4 and allow b4, this is kind of like almost the same protected pass pawn as d5, but it's not really a protected pass pawn because we have an a2 pawn. But it's as strong as a d5 pawn, in my opinion, because it's just it's the edge of the board. This pawn can be easily catched by the king in some race. But let's say in a pawn endgame, I'm not saying we lost because maybe we can catch the pawn, but if the pawns are very far advanced, I mean, we cannot catch them. So these pawns are just a potential pass pawns from now on. But I mean, Karpov was willing to make this sacrifice in order to stop c4, bishop c5. So I mean, he gained something. He definitely gained a lot of things by pushing c4, but he also allowed some counter. So this was so much more complex than we would think, because I can assure you that this was in terms of pawn structure, it was not a good decision. But keeping the darker bishop on the board, it was so much more important. We will see why. We will see why. All right. Obviously, black played b4. Your turn. I mean, we can probably handle knight c4, knight c3. We can trade this knight off either with knight b1 or knight e2. So the point was the huge deal, the huge struggle he had to deal with. It was not the knight on c3. It was the pawn structure, these two pawns, because they are coming, and you cannot stop them. You cannot stop them. I mean, of course, you can stop them if there are a lot of heavy pieces remained on the board. But in long term, let's say in a rook endgame, I mean, all of a sudden, black is never worse. Black is never worse. So we can say like white kind of ruined the pawn structure.
I think I would play f4 here.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe firstly knight e2 and then f4. Um, but I like f4 right away because knight c3 just queen c2. Um,
Yeah, you could play f4, but Karpov was super smart here. He didn't push f4 right away. Why is that? What would happen after f4?
oh, maybe you can take and no. I thought you have bishop d6, but simply e5 then.
Um, yeah, that's true. Not ef for bishop f4, bishop d6, but you can do something instead. So actually, f4 is basically if you want to push f4 later. I mean, black cannot do much about it, right.
Yes, that's true.
So whenever he goes bishop d6, you just simply go knight f5. He cannot play g6 bishop d6 just to
Yes.
prevent that, because a6 is hanging. So in order to do that, he has to lose a lot of tempos: king h7, g6, and then bishop d6. Of course, we will not wait until then. I mean, we will push f4, but we can make some preparing move first. The problem with f4, in my opinion, is bishop d6. And now you have to make a very serious decision. Maybe later, if you make enough preparing moves, maybe you don't wanna decide right away the fate of these pawns, because black can never really take, right. So whenever
Yes.
this cannot happen, because then you are just going to push e5, and this center, I don't think black can handle handle with this center without sacrificing some material, on d5 or something. Whenever you
Yes.
push e5, this is just too strong. It gives you space. It just basically black is destroying his own center. He cannot allow these two pawns, this type of center. It's just nothing will give enough counterplay for that. So this is never be the case, right? So at this point, you can kind of, you don't have to decide the fate of the pawn structure, because maybe you can make some moves, but let some preparing moves. But what about bishop d6? Now you have to decide what to do, right? Because the problem with knight f5, I'm not so sure, maybe he can take here. Probably he can take there, and you just lost the pawn. Knight d6, queen d6. You might grab his bishop pair, but you just sacrifice a pawn for that. I don't
Yes.
think that's worthy, right? Um. So now, what the last thing you wanna see? Let's say if you play rook f1, for example. Last thing you wanna see, as we highlighted earlier. Now this is not the same. This is not the same, because now you are missing your darker bishop. So now pushing e5 is not going to be that simple. So black can create Black can bring the queen here. Maybe I'm not so sure. Maybe the queen will run into knight f5. The knight can make some trouble from here, or it can come back and make this blockade on e5. But once you had the darcer bishops on, I mean, it was not the case. Obviously, in this position I'm talking about. So it's so much different. This is so much different because now obviously you're gonna push e5. But with the darks or bishops down, you can never really push e5 in that position, right?
Yes.
So f4, bishop d6, rook f1, takes. Here you cannot, you are not going to push e5 through, probably, most likely. If you can, it's still wonderful, but it's not going to be that easy from now on. Obviously, the b7 bishop is still terrible. It's borderline terrible. But if the knight can get back on time on e5, it's double-edged. We have a huge center, but in the same time we gave up on the dark squares. It really depends on the tempos and everything. So this is not what Karpov wanted. So the problem with this idea, with pushing f4 right away, that after bishop d6 you have to decide. You have to decide, and you might don't want to decide. You might want it to keep it that way. So probably you have to push. But what if after your intentions after pushing f4 was not f5? What if you wanted something else? So this is why Karpov made a preparing move. Whoops, what just happened here? This is why Karpov made the preparing moves. How would you do that? So Karpov didn't rush anything.
So I think I wanna keep my knight on g3, so that it can go to f5.
Makes a lot of sense. Knight f5 is going to be a key square, because black already played h6.
Yes.
So whenever you put your knight on f5, I mean, he cannot push 8, he cannot push g6. He has to lose a tempo with king h7. But does he really wanna put the king into this pin, into this diagonal? I mean, I don't think so. Whenever this pawn disappears from e5, we can just push e5 and create a huge pin against the king. So I don't think he wants that. I don't think this is very smart. So the knight on f5 against this pawn structure is always, not always, but combined with an e3 bishop is always very strong, because the knight cannot be kicked out from f5 that easily. So that's a very good smart decision. Keep the knight here. This is going to be key. This is going to be key combined with f4, because the knight will show up on f5. So probably, maybe we are not so sure. Depends of the fate of the pawn structure later. Maybe we will not deal with this knight with this knight. You don't know. You probably have to deal with the knight on c3. It's just too annoying. I mean, targeting e4, targeting a2, and it's just taking away a lot of key squares. So in long term, you have to deal with this guy. We just still don't know how. In Karpov's games, we can get used to, like a patience game, you know. Slowly, we are not rushing anywhere. We are not rushing anywhere. I will not show you a single Karpov game where he rushed anything. He was probably the most, patient player of all time. So
Yes.
if f4 is inevitable, he's
Yes.
not going
So
to push it right away. He will make a preparing move.
okay. So I
What
think
can be? Yeah.
I think you play Rook F1 and then
Yeah.
F4.
Yes. Exactly. Rook f1. Why is this smart? What just happened after f4? Bishop d6 happened after f4, and you had to decide because you had
Yes.
no time for knight f5. But what happens in case of rook f1, bishop d6? It's knight f5, and the
Absolutely.
bishop has to move back. So now, whenever you are going to push f4, your rook is already on f1, but his bishop is not going to be on d6. So, like you see my point, right? So,
Yes.
if you push f4 and bishop d6, you have to decide. But but in Karpov's case, the rook will be already here. But black cannot really, in terms of f4. Only for black, only bishop d6 is a useful move. Nothing else. Nothing else. But this bishop d6 cannot happen until f4 has not arrived. But whenever f4 is going to be the case, we already made a very, very important preparing move. So we are going to get an improved version compared to this position.
Yes.
That's very important. Okay, he played rook f1.
Excuse me. What happens if Bishop D6 is played right away? Like
Knight
right now?
f5.
Um. What about Bishop C7? Let's say.
All right. Bishop. I don't think bishop c7 is a very good square because now maybe
Okay.
bishop
Maybe
b8 now
Bishop
because
B8. Yes. Maybe
yeah,
Bishop
bishop,
B8.
because now you need to keep an eye.
Yes.
Now you don't have knights in case of
Yes.
queen
Yes.
city
Yes.
or something.
Logical.
So probably bishop b8. I mean, um, now we are just going to, I don't know. The
I
problem
mean.
is now you can never push g6. So
Yes.
who will what piece will counter this guy? I mean, you can never push
Yes.
even
Yes.
after
Yes.
king h7. You can never push. So this bishop is protecting these two
Oh,
guys. So whenever we are making a sacrifice, this bishop is here to protect everything. So whenever we push f4, we don't really need to take it back. I mean, we will have some juicy sacrifice here. I just
okay.
probably play queen a1, another
Whew.
preparing move,
Wow.
and then whenever we are actually from now on, I don't really mind, uh,
Yes.
uh,
Yes. Yes.
uh, you know, trading the bishops down because let's say I'm just highlighting this. You see, I mean, look at this.
Yeah. This
Look
is
at
much
this.
better than
This is
earlier.
so bad. I mean, you might have knight c3. I mean, you know what? It's
Probably
yours.
yes. You can
It's
take.
yours. I mean, look at this. Look at these pieces. They are not doing anything, and this is just too superior. I mean, my knight on f5, no one can deal with that knight.
Yes.
This is what I said. The knight on f5 against this pawn structure is just so good. It's so good. The knight is such a terrible piece on f6, and e5 is coming. And the fact that we are exchanged down is just, who cares? I mean, the
Exactly.
rooks are only dominating the minor pieces if they find open files, but they are just basically stuck. They are just stuck in the last rank, and they are not doing anything. They are not even defending. I mean, this rook is defending this pawn, which is not doesn't have to be defended.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, the bishop is actually strong on f8. So
Okay.
whenever you play Spanish, the bishop belongs to f8. It doesn't belong to the queen side. It always belongs to f8 because in many cases, in main Spanish lines, white is attacking in the king side, and you need a very strong defender on the king side. All right. So black played queen c7. He's preparing for f4. Maybe he will want bishop d6. He just wants to keep an eye, an extra eye on e5. Obviously, as we highlighted, bishop d6 was running into knight f5. Obviously, Karpov played f4.
Yes.
And now, it was a hard decision. as black, because um I besides the text move, I was analyzing, bishop d6 and e takes f4. I think bishop d6 was probably giving better chances, but it didn't really change the position so much. He could, I mean, White could still go for the same thing. What happened in the game? I think e takes f4. I don't want to show you what could happen, because then I would
Oh,
make a huge spoiler about the game. E takes f4, on the other hand, doesn't make any spoilers. So bishop f4, bishop d6. This was running into bishop f6, queen f6, knight f5. It just everything is coming with the
yes.
tempo. I know I said that trading the darks or bishops down is probably not the smart decision, but now our rook is
Yeah,
on f1. It's very important, and it just creates a immediate threat. So here we are probably winning some material. So now black either loses h6.
yes.
So let's say going back and knight takes h6 and gh rook f6. I mean, he got the dark squares. That's fair, but his king side just got destroyed. Or he either goes queen e5 protecting f6 but running into knight f3 as well, and then we are going to push e5 next move. So now because of concrete reasons, this is just bad. So obviously Grigorich didn't want to go for this. So he tried to stabilize the center. He tried to stabilize the very important e5 square, and he played knight d7.
Okay.
Um, Karpov Karpov played queen c2. He attacked the knight on a4. Nice history. And now we arrive to another critical position where we have to make some serious pawn structure decisions. Again, push, take, or hold.
I think I would take on e5,
You would take on e5.
probably, because I don't mind trading the knight for a bishop, for a light square bishop. At least I think so.
hmm But mhm. but taking on e5, knight e5, this knight doesn't bother you. It just has a beautiful outpost.
I mean,
It's kind of annoying, I think. I don't really see the follow up now, because the only reason why we like this pawn structure, if we had something immediate, something concrete. But
okay.
right now it's just this knight is just too stable on e5. So not because bishop it will get even more stabilized with bishop d6, but what's the master plan now? What can we target right now? Maybe you are still better. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but But I'm not quite. I don't think we should give this knight a purpose.
Okay.
Not. I mean, knight takes this is now this is a threat. So you have to move the knight. Let's say you move the knight to f5. I still don't see what the threat or the master plan. Maybe you are still better. I don't know. It's just I know it's hard to deal with this knight, but it's also hard to deal with this guy at the moment. I'm not so sure if black wants to take here or not. Maybe takes, and I'm not sure. Can he target this guy? How stupid is this? No, this is stupid.
Probably,
just move
yes.
the knight. No. This is no. Also, rook f4 and you just move the knight. This is protected. Sorry. Yes. Or maybe can he take here?
I mean,
I know I'm being a little bit materialistic here, but Karpov is not the guy who like to sacrifice a pawn just like that. You might get pushed through, but a pawn is a pawn, and maybe if you don't get enough enough counterplay, you can even lose the game, like ultimately. But not so sure if this is the case. I don't know. It's just because now knight takes d3 is threatening, so it feels like you just basically forcing him for the good move. Like this is why this knight got to d7, just to prepare for f takes c5, or let's say e takes f4, bishop f4, and then knight e5. This knight found the knights need outposts, they not need blockade. And we actually gave purpose for this knight. I don't think we should help our opponent like that. If your attack, this is Karpov school. So if you don't see like the concrete follow up, don't sacrifice a pawn just like that. I'm not saying that this needs to like for sure a pawn sacrifice, but it feels like it does.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure. Maybe you can go bishop f4, but let's say queen d7. Again, you have to deal with this guy. It's just obviously you don't want to, in order to save your pawn. Of course, you don't want to give up your dice or bishop, especially not for the knight, because who will counter this guy from that point? So knight takes d3, knight takes a2 is still like a thing to deal with. But this knight is just too strong here. I'm not saying you have no counterplay. It's just do you really want to give your opponent a purpose, or your opponent's piece a purpose? Or do you really want to give him counterplay? By the way, also by taking on e5, we kind of lost space. I don't know, maybe because we give up on squares. That means we gave our opponent space to maneuver his pieces. So I'm not so sure about f takes c5. So I think we can eliminate the take. Now we have the hold or the push.
Okay, but then probably also eliminate the hold, because simply e takes, bishop takes, and knight e5. I guess it's slightly better for better version of that, but still doesn't seem that great.
Yeah. So what do we have left?
Yes, probably we push, but
yeah. This is exactly what happened. What happened.
It's logical, but I don't know. I mean, how? Probably then we need to start rolling the g pawn up, yeah.
Yeah, this is exactly the plan.
Okay, but
this is exactly the plan. About this f5 stuff, just check my game against Volokitin from last year in Hungarian League. I lost the game, but it was like +8. In a time trouble, I basically had like 3 different wins, and I managed to go for the line which seemed like winning, but it was actually not winning, and I even overpushed. But it was the same plan. I started to I pushed through with f5, and I just push g4, h4,
Yes,
g5. So after we push, and this is so hard to deal with. It's just
absolutely.
because basically you have zero space. So let's say after f5, it has two very very huge points. One, we are not giving this knight a huge outpost on e5. That's key. The other key is basically we win so much space, and by that we are not giving space to our opponent. So basically, his pieces can only maneuver, the sixth, seventh, and the eighth rank. But if we allow the knight on e5, all of a sudden he would get access to a lot of things. But after
Yes,
f5, he has he cannot really do anything here. The only plan is this. But as I said, until the heavy pieces remain on the board, I mean, this will do zero harm in our position. He can't create postpone or anything. He can
yes,
overattack this guy. All of a sudden, these guys would disappear from the board. Who will protect a2? All of a sudden. But of course, I mean, we cannot and we will not trade the heavy pieces down, obviously. So this is why this f5 was a very good decision. Of course, f5 would be a terrible decision in case a minor piece endgame. In a minor piece endgame, of
yes,
course,
yes,
Karpov
yes.
would never reach this position. But thanks for the heavy piece position. I said, like I said, Karpov is not playing for an endgame. Karpov wants to keep the heavy pieces on the board, and he's trying to smash the opponent. This f5 might close, the center might close the king side a little bit, but it's just a temporary decision. I mean, in order to refute your opponent's counterplay, you had to temporarily close the king side down just to open it again with
Yes.
with this plan. So it was a huge decision. So again, like 2 out of 2 with two very very difficult pawn structure decision. Karpov obviously,
God vote.
I mean, kept the 100%. So he played f5. Black played knight f6. What now?
Probably 92.
Yeah, 92. Very very smart move.
Yes.
Also a multifunctional move. We are giving space for g4 and also removing from the picture our opponent's
Strongest
um,
piece.
most active piece, basically. Very smart move. Knight takes c2, bishop takes c2, bishop d6. Obviously, the bishop found a blockade on d6, but I mean, it's who cares? All right, your turn. Do we need any preparation, or we
I
can
mean, why not?
just
Probably.
we don't need, because basically, just like in the 3+1 rule, I mean, um we don't have to make a prophylactic move. There is
Yes.
no no threat whatsoever. Obviously g4, and black actually made a very very smart plan. Obviously he cannot handle with this, right? This will happen. And
Yes.
obviously this king doesn't want to wait for that.
Oh.
So he tried to escape. He
Whew.
tried to swing the king to to the queen side, because otherwise the king is just sentenced to death on the
Yes.
king side. It was a smart decision to start run forest run
Yeah.
h4, king d7, g5, ag, knight d7. How will you play now?
Maybe I push with f6.
Yeah, this is also what chat says. And also they say king f2. F6. I'm not so sure if he takes and king d8. I'm not so sure. Again, we
Yes, probably this is not great.
we kind of decided the fate of the pawn structure again. Do we really want that? Not so sure. We can push f6 whenever we want. I mean, if black pushes f6, then we can still keep it like that. We can push, or we can keep it like that. So again, if we are not so sure about something, we shouldn't do. We shouldn't rush. Remember, Karpov plays this game. Karpov didn't rush anything. Never, never. If he doesn't see like if the outcome is favors him like 100%, of course he did a lot of intuition decisions. But the position didn't need it. He played bishop g4. Again, this was a preparing move. It's just a supporting move, Again, and it just keeps the options, open. Maybe sometimes you want to play f6, but you are definitely strengthening some squares, and creating some threats with f6 for later. Black played rook g8 in order to stop that. Now king f2.
Yeah, okay.
Rook h8, rook h1, rook cg8. What happened now? It was nothing. What he did here. It was nothing. Nothing special. It was. He just simply improved his position a little bit.
Maybe knight f3.
Knight f3 was yeah. Again, he's not so sure if the knight is needed here
Okay.
or here. He played queen d1 because the queen was not doing much on the queen side, and in order to h5 is going to be key. H5 is going to be key because once we grab the h5, we can bring the rook to h7, and all of a sudden we can create a lot of threats by opening up, on the 7th rank. So it actually needed that. You will see why. You will see why. So he played queen d1, king d8, queen g1. He wants rook h2 and then double up by grabbing the h5. Also, the queen on h7 can be very annoying.
Yeah.
He played knight b6. Maybe the knight wants to get to c3. Never know. And also, there was another point of queen g1. There was another huge point of queen g1. What could be it?
Maybe pressuring the c5.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But how?
Well, you need the knight on b3, and you need to move the king somewhere.
Yes, exactly. This is what happened. He played knight b3. Sorry, rook h2 first. This is what I said.
Okay.
Queen e7. Now knight b3. King c7. And now he played king f3. It's so weird when with heavy pieces the king gets to f3, and it is perfectly safe. But
Yes.
why this could happen? It could happen because of the huge space advantage. Black has basically cannot do can do zero harm in our king side. Obviously, black had to protect c5. And now we need to find a plan.
Maybe I go pawn to a3 and rook a1 if takes.
Exactly. Now it's perfect timing. We put basically we cannot improve our position more.
Yes.
Like there is not a single piece which can be in a better square. And this is why a3. Now this is the final, the silent killer, because I mean the he
Yes.
cannot protect his pawn structure with a5 because this is just hanging. He cannot allow a takes b4 because that's it just allows
Yeah,
this.
then c5 probably.
Yeah, we would just probably take and c5,
Okay.
and it's just over. Or we could push c5 right away. It didn't really matter. I mean, this is just too much to handle.
Yes.
And obviously, black had to take on a3. And now he moved this through because basically black has zero counterplay on the king side. It just we are covering. I mean, we are not covering h4, but we are covering h3, h2. h4 doesn't need to be covered, but we are covering these two squares, so the rook doesn't really need it here. So he played rook a2, rook
Okay.
h4. Obviously, black desperately tried to get some counterplay. Rook takes h3, rook h8. As I said, black cannot do anything. Cannot do
Yes.
anything. So Karpov played rook b1. It just he can sacrifice an exchange, but it doesn't do anything. So okay, he changed his mind. He Gligorich realized that he cannot do anything on the king side. So he uh, tried to protect. In case of rook h1, we just simply take this.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, this is not those positions nowadays. The modern engines completely, because how I learned as a kid is two rooks are most of the cases are better than the queen. No, that changed. With modern engine, this principle just changed. Queen, I would say, in more than 50% of the times is dominating the rooks. It really depends if the queen can find some targets and whose king is weaker. In
Yes.
this case, our king is like having his best life. Is just chilling. In the meantime, we can make troubles from here, from everywhere. So this is just a hopeless endgame. Obviously, Gligorich didn't go for this. Played rook b8, um, and now queen e1. Look at that, here
Whew.
and here, double
Wow.
attack. Um, in case of rook h8, there would be a check on a5, king c8, and look.
Oof.
Finally, our bishop found this found the purpose. This is why it was so useful to put the bishop on g4. Now we have f6, and gf6, knight takes c5, and we are crushing. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, this is over.
I mean, it's so passive. This could happen because we just gained so much space. We had basically like how many ranks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranks to maneuver our pieces. Basically, he only got the 7th and 8th rank. So we had just more space. This could happen, and by that we could create weaknesses, and we could exploit those weaknesses very easily. So he took on g4, but it didn't really matter. I mean, by
Yeah.
his rook takes g4, he won some time, but it didn't really matter. He played bishop c8, and after queen e5, black resigned because I mean the position would also win in long term if nothing concrete would be happening. But actually, we can just destroy with knight takes
Yes.
c5, bishop takes c5, rook takes b6, bishop b6, bishop b6, knight b6, and c5, and we can
Whew.
end the game right there. So we could see another masterpiece from Karpov. This time with pawn structure decisions. Yeah. So summarizing the game, this is always a critical pawn structure, but you have to make sure that these two bishops are not getting traded, because then
Yes.
black is going to control over the very important dark squares. For example, c4 is not happening. C4 is always a question. This type of pawn structures could also be reached from Meran Slav. where white is having protected pawn on d5, but black is having a better, stronger queen side in return, and black could manage to trading the darks or bishops off. Black can even be better in these cases. So that imagine, I'm just trying to showcase. All right, I'm just making some random moves here. So I'm trying to or let's do it this way. I'm just trying to in these cases. Oops, not this. Let's say. So in these cases, black can even be better, because basically we have nothing to play for. We only have like a protected pawn. But what else? We have a very, very passive bishop on f1. We don't have the dark square bishop, and whenever we play for f4, we are just actually weakening the dark square. So there is no follow up after. The problem is after f4, we are just give up on so many important dark squares. So the only thing we have here is a protected pawn, but black has superior knights. You just exploited these outposts. So you have to make sure whenever you reach these type of pawn structures, you have to make sure the dark square bishops are not getting traded. But yeah, in this case, I mean, Karpov's decision was very, very smart, that pushing c4. Otherwise, you should push d5. This is the way to handle Spanish structures, to push d5, and also this rook f1 f4. So be patient. Whenever you have time for everything, be patient. If, let's say, I always try to I'm repeating myself every time, I know, but this is important. So whenever you have a plan, and that plan includes moves, always start with those moves you're gonna make, like in every case, just like here, just like in this plan. So if you are not sure when to make those moves which included in your plan, always start with those ones you would definitely make. In this case, rook f1. So you are trying to play for rook f1 f4. Start with rook f1, because if black cannot do anything about f4, as I said, is a pawn move. Don't start with the pawn move, because the pawn move is permanent. You can't change your mind. Maybe after rook f1, your opponent makes a move which you don't want to play f4 after that. You change your mind and you play for something else. In this case, we have nothing other to play for, but it's so always be careful about the pawn moves. So if your plan includes pawn moves and piece moves, try to start with the piece moves, because piece can you can change your mind and bring it back to the original place. But pawns are not going backwards, unfortunately. All right. Okay. Hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
Next week is going to be tricky, because on Wednesday I'm traveling, and I will only be streaming on Monday and Tuesday. But we will figure this out if we can arrange. By the way, would you be available on Monday or Tuesday?
Oh yeah, probably.
Okay, we'll keep in touch, and
Okay.
we'll talk about it. Yeah. Also, I will send you the games which we checked so far. But
yes.
the problem is I have Hungarian comments, so you might have to
No
you can I'm pretty sure ChatGPT can translate
Absolutely.
it like in a second. So all right. So guys, I will continue with by the way, very important. Check out Forky's Twitch channel. I give him a shout out.
Thank you.
He's also streaming. For you, how do you spell it? I always forget, man. Like
so
this?
I don't.
No, not like this.
So just fork as fork. I mean.
Yeah, but no. Is there a space between fork and chest? And no, there is no. Okay, like this.
No space. Yes.
Okay, no spaces.
Like
all right.
this.
All right. So, guys, hope you guys enjoyed our this week's session of Play Like Karpov, and I'm going to continue with recapping my Bundesliga games. All right, Forky. See you, little man.
Yes. Bye. Have a great stream.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. You too. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so the stream will end here on YouTube, and on Twitch I will be live for 5 more minutes, I believe. Bye, YouTube. Okay, so